Good morning. Thank you for being here with me today for the study on redemption. That's what I want to talk about. You will see that in here. I have the slide that is out there. But first, before we begin, I want to read, Psalm 33, 6 through 11 as we enter into the study of the word. What does it mean by redemption? By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, by the breath of his mouth all the heavenly hosts. He gathers up the waters of the ocean as in a water skin, and stores up the depths of the sea. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all who dwell in the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke, and it came to pass. He commanded, and it stood fast. The Lord brings the will of the nations to naught. He thwarts the designs of the peoples. And the Lord's will stand fast forever, and the designs of his heart from age to age. That is Psalm 33, verses 6 through 11. The word of the Lord were the heavens made. The power of God is what we're talking about in here. The word made the heavens, and so the same Lord who made the heavens is the Lord who made us. It is that Lord who invited us. It is that Lord who keeps us safe. And it is that Lord who redeems us. Now the question is, or saves us. The question here is, what is redemption, and what does it mean when we are redeemed? What is it the Lord is saving us, and how is that saving affecting us? Now, is the salvation for the entire humanity? Is that what we are worried about, that when Jesus Christ died for us, when Jesus is bringing a salvation, what is it meant for whom is it? Yes, it is both individual and collective. As we read it in here, you will see it is both individual and collective. The salvation is individual, the redemption is individual. If I do not experience the redemption, sometimes emotional experiences are not what we are talking about. If I do not believe in it, if I do not want such an experience, such a the experience of redemption in my own life, then of course it doesn't matter whether I want it or not. At the end of the day, it is a gift that is given to me, not only to me, but to the people around me. So all those who are redeemed are people around me by the love, by the kindness and mercy of Christ. So for us to remember will be this, that no matter what we believe about the people around us, they are also redeemed by Christ. As Father Thomas Keating always will say, in the end, God, we are the beloved of God. We have been loved by God. That's what Thomas Merton says. That's the greatest sin, that we do not believe that we are beloved and we are loved by God. And so the redemption is for me just as much as it is for somebody else. And so somebody else around me. So it's not only me, it is collective for the community. It is redemption is our participation in the passion, death, and the resurrection of Christ. This season, the season of Lent, that's what we are talking about. Redemption means that we experience, we learn, we actually pray about. And the season of Lent, 40 days, we really go into the deeper reflection of why was Jesus sent down from heaven with all the dominion and power that he had, came down on earth to our level. And why did he do that? Why did the Father send him to be one of us, that with the sinful fallen humanity? And in that process he suffers a great deal, and then finally he was put to death. And then, and in the end, unlike every person on earth, unlike the humanity, unlike the people who died, that he comes out of death. And so from that perspective, this our participation, an active participation in that life of Christ, his birth, his life, his passion, and his death, and in the end his resurrection. When Saint John Paul II introduced the prayer, the one more luminous mystery, the luminous mysteries into the decades of the mysteries of the Holy Rosary, and that's what he does. He brings into the daily life of Jesus, the mysterious, at the same time glorious life of Jesus, with all the pains and the struggles and sufferings, all that happened during his lifetime before his passion and death. And so when we say we believe in the redemption, that's what we are saying. Not only that we believe God the Father sent his only Son to save us and be part of us and be among the sinners, but then he lived his life, then he suffered for it, and then he died for it, unlike all men. He resurrected from it, he came from it. And so I believe in that. And that is where the redemption really becomes a practical application in our daily life. And it is the ultimate goal. Redemption is the ultimate goal of Jesus Christ, to engage us in the redemption of the world, beginning with ourselves. So when Jesus died, it is not just for me, but for all the world. So if you remember, that was the first point. It is individual and collective. So the redemption is individual and collective. It is my active participation in that call. That's what we are talking about in here. And then it is the greatest project in human life. What is the greatest project in human life? To be redeemed, to accept the redemption, not to be redeemed. It is to accept the redemption. That is not an easy thing, because it requires us to have faith, deep faith in Christ. So that is the greatest project, and we all know what projects looks like, the width and the depth of a project that we enter into. When you have a project that you go into to make it successful, you go into all length of that. And so from there we go into the experience of redemption, because we have engaged all of our energies, the positive and the negative, and all who we are is been engaged into that living into the fullness of Christ. Therefore it is the greatest project in human life. It is not mass produced, even though, but happens one person at a time, meaning to say redemption is an individual personal experience for people who are willing and open to that kind of an experience. Doesn't mean the redemption hasn't happened if I do not experience it, because a lot of people may not be engaging themselves in this life of Christ, in the passion of Christ, in the resurrection of Christ, and in the passion and death of Christ. We all do suffer, we all go through pain, we all go through suffering, we all go through illness, just as we are going through right now. Doesn't mean that we are all of that means basically is that we are engaging, we are fully part of that redemptive act of Christ, and we are experiencing that process of redemption through our own humanity. And that's what I want to invite you to go into. It is not a mass produced experience, but an individual experience, and that's what the Lord is calling us to. So today, as you pray, as you are at home, I want to ask you to enter into this peace, this a tiny little piece of experience of the Lord's love and redemption, and always to believe it is just it's yours just as much as it is yours. It is also of your neighbor and of your friends and of people who are around you, of your community, and people whom we understand, and sometimes whom we do not accept, and people who are different, people who talk differently, walk differently, and people who have a different opinion. They all are in the salvific grace, in that redemptive world, redeemed world of Christ. And therefore, we, just as much as we experience the redemption of Christ, our neighbors could come to that experience. You are able to experience that because you are willing and trying to live the fullness of Christ every day through his life, passion, death, and then ultimately resurrection. And that's what I want to invite you to live every day with such joy and participate in the redemption of Christ. May God bless you. Thank you for being here with me today.